So what's behind this Green surge in popularity, and how would a Green-led German government be different? Well, Jürgen Trittin is a former co-leader of the party as well as a former environment minister. Welcome to DW. And what do you think is behind this surge in popularity?
One thing, after 1 year of pandemic, the people are bored, and I think there has been a lot of mismanagement, not because they think it is too tough. It is more this flip-flop of managing the crisis. And for 1 year, the government has an advantage in dealing with the crisis, and now they are made accountable for all mistakes that happened, and even for those mistakes they can't do anything for. And the second thing is, this is a historic new election. For the first time, an acting chancellor is not running for getting re-elected. And for the first time, there will be a race not between the Social Democrats and the Conservatives, not between red and black, but between the Greens and the black Conservatives.
Right.
And that's the new situation. And this is reflected in the polls. I don't believe any poll.
OK. We've got a fair bit of ground to cover, and I think you've set that out very nicely. Thank you so much for that. Just so I'm clear, how has the government mismanaged the coronavirus crisis?
I think it has been the problem that they didn't tell the people the truth and do not behave like it's necessary. All the time, starting with the second wave of the pandemic, they told them, oh, let us 2 weeks and then we will open. Everyone knows that this was wrong. And the most people believe that.
Right. OK.
And this form of making promises is something that is now a huge disadvantage in the race for the Conservatives.
Okay.
And especially
let's move on. So you've done that, and we do, as I say, we do have a fair bit of ground to cover. Let's talk about your party's Chancellor candidate, Annalena Baerbock. Aside from holding various positions within the party, what has she achieved that will make voters think, yes, she'd be a good Chancellor? Well, she is the leader of the party that is dealing with the most urgent question in the view of many people in Germany, and that's the climate crisis. Secondly, she is member of the parliament for more than 8 years. That's nearly longer than Barack Obama before he started to become president. And she is tough on all these issues on the federal level, and this is the difference, for example, to Armin Laschet, who is still running the largest, but simply one state, not on the federal, not on the European level. Let's say the Greens are successful in September and do end up leading a German coalition government. After, say, 2 years in power, how would it be most obvious to people that Greens are doing things differently?
I think the main difference will be that we take serious action on combating the climate crisis. This is not only an environmental question. It's a question how we organize our mobility in the society, how we organize the whole industry. And this doing, not talking about climate crisis, will be the real important difference.
We had an announcement yesterday from the German government that the climate targets, the carbon emission targets, would be ramped up. That's doing, not talking. Are you saying that that still doesn't go far enough and that a Green-led government would go even further?
No, that's still talking. What would be necessary was to reach this increased target, to increase the price for CO2. We have at the stock exchange now a price of €50 per ton of CO2. In the non-emission trading sector, it is still below that. It's 25, nearly a half. The next step would be we have to increase the growth
of renewable energies. We have to install more capacities in wind and solar. It's ridiculous that the former frontrunner of renewable energies now invested only a tenth for renewables like China and a sixth like the US.
That's very clear. Let's look at foreign policy. How quickly would you like to see a Green-led German government take to increase German defence spending to meet NATO's target of 2% of GDP?
This target is ridiculous because you've seen that in this crisis, 12 countries reached that target without spending any money for defense. They just dropped down their economy. So what we have to do is to strengthen Europe. Europe has to care on its security. And that means mainly, for example, with a view to Libya, to Mali, and all these conflicts around us. It will not be primarily a question of NATO. It will be a question of the European Union. This will not become cheaper. But if we reach 2%, I don't know. But we have, as Europeans, to care about this conflict. We can't any longer rely on the US. That's the truth.
That's very clear. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Jürgen Trittin from Germany's Greens.